these incredible four speakers. I think we can start with a let's get the admin out. Let's just do a round of introductions. I think some of you. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's better? Okay. Yeah, if you can, we can do a quick round of admin of who are you and what is your role in your company, and etc. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's awesome to meet all you guys in Paris. Excited. My name is HRISH LOTLIKAR. I'm co-founder and CEO of Superworld. Superworld is a virtual world built on top of the real world. We're in it right now. It's all around us in augmented reality. You have a world, I have a world, brands have worlds, and then we've divided the surface of the earth into 64 billion properties of virtual real estate that anyone can own and become a stakeholder on the platform. Our goal is to empower people in their real lives and to build a better world.
Awesome. Pierre?
Well, hello, Antonio. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is PIERRE AZARIA. I am the co-founder of On Earth, the first investment fund in real estate in the Metaverse. We are Swiss regulated. What we do is that we develop on lands we acquire on the main Metaverse that we believe in, and we develop on those ones activities for our clients, and we also invest into the metaverses that we believe in the future. Our aim is to become one of the biggest owners of digital lands in the metaverse, if not the biggest one. And this is what we do since a month and a half officially from Switzerland.
Nice.
Hey everyone, happy to be here with you all. So I'm GWENDALL, the founder and CEO of MetaHood. At MetaHood, we are building a platform to make the metaverse more open and accessible. So our first flagship product is a marketplace for digital real estate. So we are listing real estate from Decentraland, the Sandbox, and much more metaverses we are aggregating and adding over time. And we just released another new product, which is called Site.Events, which is a map of all the Web3 events happening around you. So yeah, much more going on, but that's what we do for now.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Carr. I'm head of business development at Parcel, and I'm the sworn enemy of Gwendal here. We have, yeah, Nemesis, yeah. We have a marketplace that aggregates virtual land, so it could get a bit dicey.
A bad one.
Yeah. We also have a creative directory called Creativerse, where we encourage creators of all types to, architects, designers, to list their projects, their profiles, and to hopefully find gainful employment in the metaverse. And then I guess the third offering is our education platform, which is called Parcel Learn. So we're really kind of positioning ourselves as like a partner to virtual worlds, to brands, to creators, to landowners, to really make the metaverse more accessible and to bring as many people in as possible.
I really recommend, by the way, Parcel Learn. I think some of the best reports together with every round.
Top articles.
I wanted to let you know, but I haven't had the time. Amazing stuff, really good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I want to do a kind of general gauge of the audience. I think we can start with some sort of raise of hand of who owns land here. Interesting. Okay. Well, no. We're just talking about virtual land here. Who owns land in more than one metaverse? Interesting. Okay, this is good. I think we can probably. I know that people want the juice. What do you own and why? And feel free to not answer if you don't want to, or say it's not financial advice or or anything like this. But do you want to say? Sure.
Yeah, sure. I think the perspective that I have on it, and I think that question there was interesting, which is the real world or the virtual world, is I think is indicative of how I think of this space, which is Superworld, again, is part of the real world. And so if you own land in the real world, I want you to interact with Superworld, because Superworld is the real world. right? And so my perspective is, as I think about properties, I own land in Superworld, but it's because of the perspective I have on the space, right? And I think with what we're doing, which is very much, intertwined with people's real lives, and how do you improve people's real lives in the real physical world? That's where I feel comfortable. Now, there are obviously virtual worlds that are, again, virtual settings and have virtual, content and completely virtual, and even themes, different, obviously all different kinds, and those are great too.
Right.
But those aren't like, kind of what I'm doing this for.
Right.
So
right.
again, that question there, when I say you own land in the real world, for me that counts. That's Superworld
Right.
too.
Fair.
Do you see what I mean?
We will touch upon that later on too in more depth. But let's see the round.
Yeah, I can go. It depends on which wallet, which identity. Like, yeah.
Everyone is trying to get away from this question, isn't it?
Yeah,
No one is really answering.
For myself, you see here, a few sandbox lands. One other did the other side land.
Nice.
Super impressed with what they're building. A couple of one Decentraland land, and yeah, I'm aiming at much more. Kind of. The goal is to become a tycoon in the metaverse, but yeah, we're starting. I'm starting small. Yeah.
Can we touch upon also on what are you eyeing? Like, what is something that you would like to own but haven't yet?
Good question. I mean, this metaverse we're living in, there are a couple of good things I'm aiming. It's if we are part of a simulation, it's sort of a big metaverse we are living in. So if we can include it in the metaverse space, there are some cool stuff I would like to learn.
Gotcha.
Get. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I think it's good to, I don't think the metaverse will be a winner takes all, or there will be just one giant metaverse that will be there. I think we're going more towards specialized metaverses, the same way we have social networks today, right? You have people who are on TikTok, people who are on Instagram, and on different social networks who are not going for the same reasons and who are not the same kind of people. So I think there will be many different metaverses for many different needs. I think it's good to have, your sort of your feet in each of these worlds, just for the sake. Even like if you are like an explorer or really curious or want to build stuff everywhere, it's good to have, when it's affordable still, to get your feet everywhere. So yeah.
Gotcha. Pierre?
As on Earth, we own lands in the metaverse that permits to have passive incomes. So right now, meaning passive incomes, I mean to rent the development that we are building on those lands. And right now, it's possible officially only on Decentraland. So we are very exposed on these ones. However, we are looking only for projects with developers like lands that we work with in the US to have an interoperability of our construction to other metaverse like Sandbox, which have great brand awareness, like also the other side. So this is what we are aiming to and also doing right now, and on a personal level, wherever I can buy a land in order to study the business case, I do it.
Awesome. Dave?
Yeah, I used to work for Decentraland, so I have some skin in the game there with land. I guess I'm most, in terms of the question of what I've got my eye on, I think I'm probably most bullish about the augmented reality projects. So
Interesting.
Superworld, the guys over there. I think, if Apple's talking about releasing a headset next year, my suspicion is it's going to be less scuba gear and more smart glasses. So I think that's going to onboard a ton of people to the metaverse. And so the AR projects are probably best placed to capitalize on that. Because I think we tend to focus too much on the metaverse. I think we default too much to Decentraland and Sandbox and we think about Ready Player One, and I think the metaverse, if we look at that as a layer of services, then I think that layer that augments our physical reality and benefits our physical reality, I think is probably going to be the first experience for us. That's my feeling.
And that's a really good segue actually to the next question. And I know this question has been asked quite a lot during the conference, but I think there is never enough asking of this question, especially now, which is the very simple question of definitions and consensus, and kind of like the question being, what if you had to choose one variable to define what a metaverse is, what would that be?
So, you know, I think there's, as you said, there's a lot of different ways of thinking about this. I think the metaverse is really an understanding of how your analog physical reality and virtuality are intertwined. And so currently you do a lot of things in the analog world, and those things in many cases don't have anything to do with virtuality, whether you went and got a coffee today walking somewhere, or maybe went to an event, or you did something totally virtual, which was virtual. You went online and did something, bought something, or, you know, played a game. And so I think the metaverse to me is when all of those activities are connected together, and you have an appreciation of that. So there are people that live in the metaverse now, and a lot of their activities, they go somewhere, they get a POAP, or they do something and get some virtual benefit from it, or they do something virtual and they get some physical access. They start doing these things that are linked. But I think when we all have that understanding of what's possible, the awareness of that linkage, that's the metaverse.
Right.
Well, I do believe the metaverse, and not the plural aspect of it, that we use to the metaverses in order to help us localize what are the different projects. I think that it's just the continuation of what would be what was internet, what is internet would become metaverse, would permit to have a more fluid web experience, and to have the thanks to the blockchain and the technologies that we have, to have the true authentication, the true ownership, and that will permit also to have a much more completely immersive in few years experience, in order to do much more things with the internet that would become metaverse. Before we were beginning, many years ago, we were saying the internet. Internet website is a word that came few years later. So I do believe that we are still shaping what is the meaning of metaverse.
Right.
Yeah, I think we kind of will all go to a consensus around it, but in my definition would be more a state in which your physical life and your digital life merge together. You sort of have one strong link in between these two components. It's already sort of happening today, right? You are all on Twitter and you know, social networks, and you have your identities. You can have your favorite PFP as an avatar, and it's sort of your new person online, which is also your, you know, a continuation of your physical persona who is here today. So yeah, that's everything is, yeah, all the platforms that are building metaverses are building these 3D spaces, but I think we have to consider the metaverse as a more general and holistic vision of this world where digital takes become really important in your daily lives. So we're already in the metaverse.
I would agree with that.
Right.
I think the last we need is another definition of the metaverse. So I think all of those answers covered it adequately. But I think, yeah, Gwendall's spot on. It's a more immersive, more integrated experience, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this is a question more to you, Gwendall. I think there is we kind of have to tell things as they are, and we have to be honest with, for example, numbers. And I look at, for example, daily average users between, let's say, the blue chip metaverses like the Decentraland or the Sandbox and etc. And if you compare those to, let's say, the Robloxes and the Fortnites and etc., what do you think, given the disparity between the two? And for those that don't know, daily average users within the Decentraland, I believe, is around 1,000 people, or maybe less, and the Sandbox is just a little bit less, compared to the tens of millions in Fortnite or Roblox and etc. What do you think it makes it so appealing for the average users to have, or wanting to own land in these metaverses, when there isn't really, like, the users aren't really there? Why? Why would they?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tricky one. It's true. The not open metaverse, as we call it today, is much more engaging. And yeah, Roblox, I think last number was 57 daily active users. Fortnite is 30 million. Yeah, Sandbox, Decentraland, 1,000, maybe something like that. I think today it's really a promise people are building on the metaverse. This promise of building a more immersive internet and a more immersive worlds where you can actually own assets and probably make revenue out of it, or at least get a status online in these worlds. So it's all a promise that these platforms are building, and it's true today the number is not there, but I guess when first the internet first started, I'm pretty sure there are much more people who are reading paper yellow pages than were reading internet yellow pages, and you see how it played. So I don't think we have to be too scared about these numbers yet. Like, since the uses are being built, we just have to be supportive of this whole economy being built and to participate ourselves. I think that's really the beauty of the open metaverse. It's not corporations or companies building it. I mean, you have a few, I won't name, but everyone knows the big, the F word, like the F company building a closed metaverse, and it's not something we are all supporting here, I guess. Yeah, that's the beauty of the open metaverse, is we are building it ourselves. Like, everybody here right now at this event is participating in building this open metaverse, and I'm super bullish on it, even though numbers aren't here today.
Nice, good answer, really good answer. You got away with it. HRISH, you kind of touched upon it already at the beginning. I kind of want you to give us a little bit more, I would say, from your customers, like customer insight as to what is the appealing part for specifically what you build, which is indeed this kind of like hybrid, real world, digital world, and what makes, for example, what is really appealing, for example, of owning, let's say, a big landmark in a digital twin of a big landmark. What are your customers saying about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I talk to customers, when I talk to our super citizens, they always tell me stories. Okay, so if I ask you, where do you own land in Superworld? One thing I'm going to hear from you is exactly where. You're going to know exactly where. You're going to light up. You're going to tell me places in the world that you love. Number two, you're going to tell me why, and it's going to be a very personal reason. You went to school there, you work there, you have a business there, you go on vacation there, your grandfather lived there, you go on a walk there every day. It's a very personal reason, and that's very important, because a lot of people in this market don't know why they buy NFTs. A lot of people just don't know. In this case, people love the places they own in Superworld. They really cherish them. And number three, very importantly, they're telling me what they want to do there. What is it they want to build? What is it they want to experience? What is it they want to share with the world? And so, again, those stories are, indicative and exemplify this very personal, heart-focused reason. And that's very important for us, because our mission at Superworld is to improve the world, is to enhance the world, to improve people's lives. And so people really understand this mission of, hey, let's all build the world together and go and buy the places that you love in the world, and let's do that together. Let's build Superworld together. And that's why people get onto the mission of Superworld. We call it Team Superworld. So everyone can be part of Team Superworld, okay? That's number one. Number two, why do people buy monuments? It's really the same reason, right? Some people love the Eiffel Tower. Some people love the pyramids. I remember when I went to the pyramids in Egypt the first time when I was a little kid, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. Can you imagine owning the virtual real estate that encompasses that, right? And again, to be clear, you don't own the physical structures, right? You own the virtual real estate on top of the real world in those locations, right? But people want to own those locations because they want to tell stories. They want to be part of stories that are being told. They want to be able to benefit from activity there. And most of all, they want to have those special places in the world that they're fond of and be able to own them. They can't do that in the physical world, right? A lot of millennials are priced out of physical real estate, right? But they can get into virtual real estate. And if they do own physical real estate, they can do both, right? And so I think there's a lot of reasons why, but I think those first three reasons, the stories, the passion, and really just the, again, the connection to those places is why people buy land in Superworld. And that's the opportunity, is once you buy land, you're part of Team Superworld. We can build together and work on how we can build a better world together.
Amazing. For Dave, I really like this concept of this. I mean, we can all agree there is a potential 10x upside to what we're doing, and I think the interest in seeing the audience here proves it. But I really like the concept of the 10x upside, 10x downside, where there is a lot of opportunities in the downside part, meaning there is a lot of shovels to be built to dig this gold, and maybe there is more opportunity there than the upside. Where do you see, what type of shovels do we need to build for that 10x upside to happen?
Well, we need to activate creators, really.
I agree.
The land is only as valuable as what you build on it, ultimately. Because we run the risk of launching multiple virtual worlds, and it's like creating a bunch of Disneylands with no rides and attractions. No one's going to go. They might just sit and hold that land and wait for the value to go up, but that's not benefiting the community. And we talk about open metaverse versus closed metaverse. The reason why there's however many million people in Roblox or Fortnite is because they've got a ton of capital behind them. They are games first and foremost. You know what you're getting. You don't own it. You don't own anything in the game. So in the open metaverse, where these are bootstrapped, there's funding behind them. But if you take the case of Decentraland, yes, they sold a lot of land, which funded the treasury, and it's doing well. But at the same time, it relies very much on creators to do things in the metaverse. And I think landowners who have bought early and who are sitting and kind of holding onto their land, they're coming around to the idea that actually what's going to increase the value of their land is if they do something with it. And so that's why at Parcel we created the Creatorverse, because we're like, well, the creators are here looking for opportunities. You've got traditional architects, and there's a great chat later this afternoon with Fatima from Spaces DAO, masters in architecture, and is doing fantastic builds in various worlds. And these are the people that are going to drive development and obviously ultimately adoption. So that's absolutely crucial. So if, the golden shovels are going to be wielded by the creators, 100%.
Right. And I mean, that was very much the purpose of building. Even for us at Metamundo, it was a marketplace where you're just pushing out environments and making it very easy for creators to build things without having to think about where you need to put it on, and it's on the center and sandbox, etc. Yeah, completely agree. And maybe just keeping on that point, I keep seeing this, and you said it right, this disparity between landowners and land builders being two different categories, really. And then, as you rightly said, kind of, unfortunately, and this relates also to the question of daily average users, is the reason there isn't a lot of daily average users because there isn't really that much to do in them. Most of them are fairly deserted and etc. And how do we solve this kind of like three-way things where the way to raise capitals for metaverses is selling land? Decentraland, for those that remember, it was an ICO, selling land, and the disparity between raising capital for metaverses through land sales, and then landowners not building within those parcels, and creators being priced out into owning one so they can build in them. This to me is quite a fairly important trilemma to fix this. Okay, let's get traction and let's make this exciting. Where do you see the solution there?
Well, I think there are a lot of landowners who do build. I think amongst those early adopters, if we go back to the example of Decentraland, a lot of the early adopters who were buying parcels at $20 a pop, hard to imagine now, but they did build. These were creators who were in the space. They understood, video game creation. They understood 3D tools, and so they bought. But then there were obviously a lot of people who hoovered up great swathes of land and have sat the whales. I think the way to, in the existing metaverse projects, the way to build users and build content is to, well, education is absolutely key. So training people on the SDKs, finding easier ways to onboard people. The product itself has to be better. And for the new metaverses coming along, the new projects, I think they've learned the mistakes. So if you take the example of Wilder World, they have released sort of assets first.
Right.
They've engaged with the community on the level of the cars and the sneakers and the pets and wearables, and they've brought people along this journey, this roadmap, which I think is really crucial. So people can see what's coming, they can see the features, and so they're getting excited about that. And so when land eventually does happen, it's not the be all and end all.
Right.
And they're taking the step of actually effectively banning whales from, taking up huge areas of land.
Right.
It's going to be limited, which I think is a really smart approach.
Yeah.
Because now creators, if they want to buy into the OGs to a greater or less extent, they have to form DAOs and treasuries in order to pool their money. Or they have to rent, which is a new thing that's coming along. But then again, I would go back to the augmented reality projects, which are very affordable and actually have probably a lot more application in the short term. So, yeah, it's still very, very early, but we just have to be mindful of, and for people who are looking to get in, just looking for those opportunities and doing their homework on the various opportunities out there. Oh, you got one. Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah, if I can add something to it, I think also it's one of the bad aspects. I mean, not bad aspects, but parts of the idea of building an open metaverse is that if anyone can buy land, no one can take it away from you. So you can do whatever you want with it, right? And a lot of people are like regular human beings, a lot of people just don't necessarily know about something, but want to get in it because we think it's going to be better in the future, or it's going to be bring money. So a lot of people are buying land to speculate. They just buy land because they heard about the metaverse. Everybody is speaking about the metaverse, and they know it's going to be the next big thing. So a lot of people are like piling land, getting land, but not doing anything with it because they don't want to do anything with it. The only goal for many people is just to make a profit of it. So that's really an issue all metaverse platforms are facing right now. It's like, how do you incite people to do something with their lands? So it's more of it's really an incentive problem we have here. So yeah, different ways I think there will be different solutions to solve this problem. I think if you find a way to make it for these people who are here to make a profit, to make more money by making their lands usable or getting something built on it and making it a place where people want to go and hang out and spend time, that's how we are going to solve this problem. Because yeah, otherwise you're going to end up with empty worlds with people just waiting for prices to go up, and prices will never go up because nothing will happen in this world, and it will just be deserts, and these platforms will die just because nothing will happen there.
Yeah,
so.
and adding to that point is we're seeing how Spatial is doing, and Spatial actually has a daily average users of 10,000 broken amount, and anyone can go and build, and you have templates and no need of using land, and I think that's a really interesting approach. They're of course always bound to investor money, so when that runs out, but I see Spatial, for example, as a very interesting way of not really fixing it, but a different approach.
If I can say,
sure,
I think they said something that is very, very important. It's about the purpose that you give to it. If there is no use of it right now, if it's not, let's say, the product that is there is not metaverse ready, that there is not a real experience that already brings you something right now, it has no purpose. So, for example, what we are doing at On Earth right now, we are building the first legal district with a DAO and with law firms. That would permit for them to interact between themselves, to get to know better their clients, and in order also to give access to literature and things that you cannot do in the real world. So there must be a real purpose in order to bring people. I mean, it's the same in the real world.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with you, Pierre. I know that you do a lot of research into kind of like what does the profile of landowners look like. Can you tell us a bit more about that, and maybe if you can tell us also a little bit about the evolution of it? How is it evolved into, let's say, maybe short, medium / long term, if you can predict that?
Well, about the long term, I am not a financial advisor, so please just leave. This is my personal opinion and also what I've learned from our experience at On Earth. As an example, Decentraland, if I'm not wrong, it's 90,000 lands and 60,000 owners, meaning that a lot of them owns a lot of lands. Right now, we see an evolution in the profile of the people searching to acquire lands. We at On Earth have a lot of interest from new interest from institutionals, which were not in the game, which are beginning to have a skin in the game. A lot of VCs into cryptos, and a lot also of family offices that have a small percentage of their portfolio invested into Web3 or cryptos, and also all the crypto holders, because when you hold crypto, you don't really have a strategy. So On Earth and lands and passive incomes are giving a strategy to your cryptos. So I do believe that that it will be global, that each one of us will find its own interest to buy a land in this metaverse or in this other one.
But where do you see kind of like the relation between, I'm interested in knowing kind of like how the variables like parcel count, parcel sizes, daily average users, floor prices, how those, let's say if we wanted to put an algorithm in, putting those variables in, where do you see, I mean, the clear kind of like supply-demand situation where the more supply you have, your floor price will go down, and et cetera, et cetera. Where do you see kind of like the sweet spot into what should be the combination of those four variables?
I do believe that today you have to consider that we are really at the beginning of it, meaning if we could compare, and you have some studies of big institutions that are saying it's like if comparing that we were in Brooklyn in the late 19th century, and 2020 is coming within 5 to 10 years. It will not take 150 years to get there.
Right.
So this is what we have to understand. It goes really fast. The technological revolutions are going faster than before. It's not like when we came from radio to TV, black and white, from black and white to color, and then phones. And I mean, the technological revolution are going so fast, and you can feel that every day there are so many novelties, so many people and great brains are working on it. So I do believe that it will come faster than a lot of people believe.
Okay, we have, I think, a couple of minutes left. I think it's either questions or I want to let all of you kind of tell us a little bit what's next. But let's do questions first, and if we have time, then you plug your stuff. I see one over there, the girl there.
Hello, everybody. Well, I'm a lawyer, so I have a legal question. What is the legal frame, and what are your insight about the estate law and all the contracts and everything about the frame?
Well,
you can give us some answers. It would be nice.
Maybe the question here is, what do we consider virtual land? Is it a security? Is it an asset, a digital one? Is it? I think maybe that is really the question. And then based on that.
Yeah, not only because when you hire an architect, what kind of contract do you conclude? In terms of how are you going to transmit? I mean, in your after your death, and there is a lot of other questions than securities and so.
I don't know who wants to answer.
Yeah,
this.
interesting one. Yeah, yeah.
Gwendal,
Right.
take it for the team.
Feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a question in several questions. So there are like different. So how do you consider land? Like as a, what kind of ownership is it? How do you structure a relation between a own landowner and a builder? And so yeah, for these questions for now, I think it's really, so small disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just gonna give my understanding of this. But lands for now are considered like all NFTs as, for in some regulation as securities, right? So yeah, it will be just, you will buy it, and when you sell it, you will pay your taxes on capital gain, right? Most jurisdictions today are considering it this way. I think it will change over time, right? If it's really considered like physical places where you can actually have an economic activity, and it will probably change over time, but today it's the state of the art, if I can call it that way. And that's one thing on the builder versus owner aspect.
What's happening if you want to rent?
Yeah. Oh, that's another one. Yeah. It's super early. Like nothing there is yet. So you will have a lot of work to do. So
Well,
yeah, you're in a good position right now.
One last quick one. I see the guy there. If we can, do we still have time? The guy over there with the blue shirt? Yeah, it's okay.
So again, sticking to the architectural aspect of things, like Mr. HRISH put a very interesting underlining about people wanting to acquire places to tell stories and tell a little bit about themselves. And as an architect student and architect in the future, I think, how are people now expressing, and now architects, for example, Mr. Dave he's an architect. How are people expressing with the idea of the house? If the house home is something in the metaverse, or if we simply leave the metaverse as public spaces or semi-public spaces, is it something? Thanks.
Again, to emphasize the point of telling stories, I think we, in the physical world, have done this for centuries. And architects, are limited by physicality. Many of them feel as if they're, having to do architecture as a hobby, because if they really want to build something, they're not able to because of the physicality restriction that enables them to do something more commercial, right? And the beauty of this, and my friend here, Artemis in the front row, was telling me this, so I got it from her, and she's an architect. But the point is that in these virtual world settings, you can really create anything you want. So we had Vesa, who's a very famous digital artist. He created a whole temple, and he launched it last week in the pyramids of Egypt. And you can walk through the temple. It's in augmented reality and WebGL, and you can buy artwork and do things. So this is just Barbados, the country, is building an embassy in Superworld. So again, they have an embassy in the physical world. They're building an embassy in Superworld. So the idea is that literally you can build anything you want, right? But again, back to the story, which I think is very important. I think goes back to what I was saying, is that architects have these dreams. They have these visions that they want to create. And a lot of times they're not able to, whether physical or virtual, variety of reasons, right? Usually it's economic. And what we can enable is the realization of these dreams, whether in a virtual setting at first, really rebuilding cities. Like we're working with UNESCO to help rebuild Beirut, Lebanon, right? The city that was destroyed by an explosion. So how can you reimagine that city in augmented reality? We have tribes in the Amazon jungle that are creating digital artwork in the Amazon to enable people to understand what's happening in the Amazon jungle, right? And so all of these are stories. With the Ukraine invasion that's happening now, we're able to visualize what's happening in Ukraine and put those images right into the cities where you live. so you can understand and empathize with what's happening. So again, back to stories and back to realization of things that people can't see and feel physically. They can do that virtually first, and then using decentralized finance and transactional types of mechanisms where, you know, whether it's renting or fractionalization, you can actually create the physical world using Superworld, right? So you can imagine something and then build it physically. And so architects have that possibility in these worlds.
Beautiful. Okay, we're done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the hosts. Thank you for having us.